Hi, and welcome to a new episode of Don't Be a Man About It show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today. I know you are on a road trip. Hi.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to finally meet you. Yeah.
Yes, right? Thank you for being here. So I'm going to start with my most famous question. How is your heart doing today?
It's great. Yeah. I just got done I just got done with a little breathing and I was focusing on that, because sometimes when you finally get time alone, you can just sort of check in and be like, how am I feeling about everything? And, because sometimes life gets so busy, even just like, where am I going to eat and where am I going to go and what, yeah. So the goal is human being, not human doing for this year. So yeah, heart's doing good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
how's your heart?
My heart today, that's I did not see that coming. I don't know. All right. I don't know how's my heart doing. But most of the times my heart is always grateful. Yeah, that's always my word, grateful.
Yeah. You got clean water, roof over your head. Yeah.
Yes. Matt, there's the reason why I reached out to you, and I think I told you that, is you have this beautiful statement, which is everything is total bullshit.
Yes.
If you do not show up and practice.
Yes. That's well, it comes from, I'm a martial artist and I'm a musician, and I think a big point, kind of knowing about how, you've worked with people, going through emotional crisis and stuff. There's a phrase that I'm always saying, if you've ever met me, you've heard me say it a million times. It's, there's no truth according to you. You're according to the truth. And what happens is, as an artist, all of your life is sort of, you're creating a story and you're trying to basically bridge the gap between what you think is going to happen, what you wish is going to happen, and what is actually happening. And we're trying to fill in all those gaps, right? Like, as a musician, like, I pick up a guitar and I imagine I'm going to sound like this, and then what's really happening, you know what I mean? And then there's the way that other people interact with that moment, right? And so the only way to bridge that is through practice. And so a lot of times we found all these new ways to bypass that, whether it's technology or whether it's whatever, and we can program things, but there's still always that gap. And we always have to show up. And the thing about it is, like, shelter in place was really good with that, because, once shelter in place happened, everyone's like, I'm buying a ukulele and I'm learning Spanish, you know what I mean? And everyone's like, I'm going to play piano. And, everyone said, I'm going to make the best of this, but we can buy anything, but you can't buy skill. Like, you can't buy skill. You just can't. You can buy the tools, you can pay for the teacher, you can do, but if you're not showing up and practicing, and when I kind of left my world and went into more cities in the academic world, I realized I was meeting people with these resumes. And when it came down to the real test, which is, now you're under stress, can you make a conscious decision? And can you do it when you're under stress? And a lot of times they weren't happening. Or I would meet artists and they would talk about how much art they created in college, in art school, but now they're at home and they're not making any art. And I'm like, well, it's because you weren't making art in college. You were doing assignments. You were being told what to do. You weren't practicing, right? And so the idea is, like, there's no truth according to you. You're either at home, alone, and then it comes out. It's like one of my favorite, like, rules to live by is, beavers build dams and artists make art. You know what I mean? And so, like, so we're always trying to get close to what we really are. And, it's really hard in this culture now, because we have all these distractions and we have all these expectations. Like, why would I do this if I can't turn it into passive income? You know what I mean? And you're like, wait, you started with the question, how's your heart? Do it because it brings your heart joy. Do it because watching yourself grow, like a little, The theme for this year, we just did an astrology talk for this year, and it was about planting a tree, right? Oh. You plant the tree, not saying this is going to be, this tree is going to be great at guitar. You know what I mean? You're planting the tree and you're taking care of the tree, and the tree slowly grows, and your job is to just take care of the tree. And so practicing art and communication or skill building, that is literally just taking care of the tree that is you. That's really all it is. So, but if you're not showing up, it ain't gonna happen. And that's really important, I think, for us to understand. And the last one is like, in yoga, we always say it's 1% theory, 99% practice. Like, that's all it is. That's like, life is easy.
Yeah. I read somewhere, just speaking of practice, I read in a book, it's not practice that makes perfect. It's perfect practice that makes perfect.
Yep. Yep.
And when I read that, it brought to my attention a lot of things that we could be practicing, and we're very consistent in, but we're doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, and also Steve Martin, if you ever read his book. Do you know Steve Martin?
Of course.
Great. Yeah. And he was always talking about, it's like you practice because you want to be consistently good. Because when you're consistently good, then you get the work to get on the stage and in the room to be able to have the weird accidents that happen that create greatness. Because greatness is just a moment in time and is usually an accident, right? And I think that's really important, is we're just trying to get good. And this is the key. And then when you can take it out of, like, the rule for like practice for me personally is, can I do it? And then can I do it consistently? And you know what I mean? It's like, what is the goal? Can I do the goal? Now, can I do the goal consistently? And then you have to put it under stress, right? And now, can I do the goal again under stress? Can I do it consistently under stress? And then at the end of all of that, you wanted to say, now, how can I make it easier? Because once it becomes more efficient, then you can expand your consciousness through it. You're not just focusing on the goal. And that's what we're trying to do. And but the problem is when I say stress, people have their own idea of stress.
Definitions.
But we don't understand the vastness of stress, because some people talking to a member of the opposite sex is way more stressful than speaking to 1,000 people, right? But as a musician, I remember playing to 1,000 people was so fun. But like, if I was to sit in a room alone with you and play, my hands would be shaking, right? Or like,
so funny. I would just, that's so funny. I was just telling my friend the other day is that I get nervous if I had to give a speech or if I had to be the center of attention in front of my friends. But I don't mind getting on stage and being nervous for like a few minutes and then just doing this speech or this talk or this training. I don't mind that, but don't put me on the spot in front of my friends, or don't ask me to do things in front of one person. No, I don't do that. Let me be. This is not my zone. So now you're saying it, which makes huge sense.
Yeah, and it's like, and we want to find the stress, right? So it's funny because like, with the practice thing, like I just did this little package talk thing on the Total BS Wellness site. And, but as a gift, I gave away, and I'll release it next week on YouTube, but it's basically like 3 ways to practice. Because when I tell people to practice, we oftentimes just go into like, I don't have time, or whatever it is whatever your thing is. But I break it down into like a few ways. There's the academic way, which is like compartmentalization. Like I, schedule every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do this at this time and whatever. But the problem with that is it builds guilt. And then people like, if you don't make it to the thing, you're like, oh, I didn't make it. And then you have to like punish yourself or reward. And it's like, so that's one way. But then another way is just do it in flow. Like I look at practice as like a farmer would farm. Like, you're always doing it. So, it's like, I like music, movement, and food. That's it. That's all I really care about. And so I'm always like, before we talked, I'd do a little yoga, and then, I might play guitar, I might write a poem, but it's always just, I have 5 minutes, I do it. Right. And I have 20 minutes, I do it. I have an hour. I do, you know, and then I'm always looking at, I'm probably not going to work out really hard if I know I'm going to go to an interview later, because I'm going to show up, and I've done this like muddy. And, you know, I remember, I remember practicing in a park before I was supposed to go to this really fancy event. Like Prince was supposed to be playing at it. It was like really nice in LA. And then I met a guy, and next thing you know, we're literally wrestling in a park. And I'd show up to this event just sweaty. I think he had torn the sleeve off my shirt. And I was like, hey, so that, but that's in flow. But then the other way we can practice is just sharing with friends, like teaching, hey, I've been working on this thing, you want to do it? Or, hey, I've been, you know, and just talking to each other. And that's another way of practicing, just keeping it in your mind, in your conversation. And, you know, asking, how's your heart doing? Well, my heart's great. I just got done learning a thing. You know, I mean, it's like, how do I always integrate some sort of practice into my life? And so I think we put too much pressure on it. You know, I should be like focused.
We were taught. That's how we were taught. That's what our culture did to us, our society, our families, our surroundings, all of them. We were pressured to do everything. And if we don't do it, this is where the guilt comes from. Because when we were kids, if you do not eat your food, something bad will happen. If you do not do your homework, something bad will happen. So we grew up to be these kind of, we got that conditioned, our behavior, our thoughts, even the fun stuff. If I don't do that, then no, I don't want to miss my meditation. I don't want to miss my dance class. No, it comes from that place. But I 100% agree with you. If we come from a place where everything is just flowing, and we let it be to flow, whatever it takes us, whatever happens, happens, and we 100% be okay with that, I think we could move from good to great.
Yeah. And also it's kind of like, with the phrase, if you can't walk with it, it doesn't exist, right? And so I wrote a thing, it's, you know how Facebook every now and then will be like, 10 years ago, you know, here's your post, right? And there's this one thing where I remember it's I think it was like 11, 12 years ago, and it said something about like, you know, you wake up every morning, you get in a box, and then you drive to a cubicle, and then you work, and then you leave that and you get back in your box, and then you drive to a gym, and then you get on a rectangular mat and you do yoga, and then you call that peace. And it's like, the thing about this is all that meditation is supposed to teach you is all of it is to keep you entertained while you're learning to breathe. That's it. And the funny part is I really crack up, because people, a lot of times, what I've noticed is don't realize they're actually breathing when they're doing the dishes too. They're breathing when they're in the shower. You know, it's like, hey man, you're always breathing. 2 minutes without breath, you're going to know. Like, you're going to be very aware if you go more than 2 minutes without breathing. And so, but the idea is like, if you miss your meditation, the real perfect practice is, can you bring that into everything you're doing? That's consciousness, right? Like all martial arts was in theory, because people think whether it's competition, no, that's what social constructs and marketing and agriculture, where we have to make rent, has done to it, has turned it into an industry, right? But there is no industry in the idea of knowing how to be healthy, knowing how to make conscious decisions under stress, and bring peace even into the most violent and volatile environments. That's what a warrior or a martial artist was. It turned war into health. That's what it did. And just by studying those principles, you know, it's like kind of, you were talking about the health into harm. Like low level martial arts is you do something I don't agree with and I beat you to death. That's really low level. And then high level martial arts is you try to beat me to death and I turn you into my ally. That's, you know, you just switch it. That's all it is. And so it's really funny how if we miss a day of meditation, we might go, oh man, I missed meditation. I didn't go to my temple and I didn't. And it's like, you're missing the point. If you miss a day of meditation, just do it while you're driving. You're just breathing. Like, boil it down. Like, you know what I mean? It's really kind of funny how
I know
you don't have to put on it. Yeah, it's so silly. It's I was telling someone the other day, it's like, you know, the tiger doesn't put on tiger clothes and then go to tiger class to go be a tiger. Right? You know what I mean? It's not like you're a tiger. Like you breathe. You don't have to put on your breathing outfit.
But it's also how you breathe.
Yeah.
There's a plenty, like to give you an example of the person I was. Mm-hmm. When someone used to tell me, for example, my mentor used to tell me, now it's time to breathe. And I was like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would I do that? I'm breathing anyway, just like that. Yeah. She was like, no. So she taught me that there's this practice where you sit with your breath.
Yeah.
And you be in the moment and you check in with your body head to toe, and you learn how to listen to your thoughts and silence them when you have to. I learned there's a right way to breathe. And there was once I was on stage, I was performing my role in a theater, and I hit my nose and I just bumped into a wall, and I was bleeding and I was in pain, but I couldn't go to the hospital because I had to be on stage. With breathing, the pain went away. I was okay for that short time. And once it was done, I went to the hospital and just got it done. And it blew my mind away. Ever since that day, I don't skip meditations. I don't skip breathing. Even when I'm stressed, I know, okay, let's check in, let's breathe.
Yeah. The cool thing about, and this is funny you say that, because this is the challenge, right? So once we hit a certain age, like, you know, we, again, academia and all these other things, we get so much into doing, not being, right?
Yeah.
And that removes us, because the breath and the essence of life, since we're always doing it, we just don't worry about it. Like, how many people really think about walking, right? You know, we don't think about it anymore. And so we're just going, so then you have to relearn it's a re-education of day one. And if you've ever, you know, and as an artist, I mean, I'm always like, as a martial artist, everything I do always boils back down to a breath and a punch. Like, no matter how fancy the move is, it always boils down to, can you throw a good punch? Every time I do yoga, I've been doing yoga for decades. And every time it's, how can you move with your breath? That's all you're doing. Unify breath with movement. I inhale here, exhale there. That's all I'm doing. And how is your forward bend? I've been into rooms and everyone thinks it's about handstands. No, it's like, how is your forward bend? And are you okay when you do that handstand, not having a picture taken of yourself, right? Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that is yoga. Can you do it? Can you do it when no one's watching? Can you do it without the glorification? Can you do it without the high five? And can you unify your breath with your movement? So that breathing of checking in from head to toe, can you carry it in? Like right now during this conversation, when we're in a stress of meeting new people, are you aware of your toes? Are you aware of what your hands are doing? Are you aware of the fact that, does the breath go all the way up and back down, or is it stuck in the chest because we're performing for each other? Or are we in our bodies, right? And that's technically what we're trying to do, is the being is always there. That's, you know, remove the resistance and you're just like a fire hose. And that's what we're trying to do. But every new room you go into, like me too, every new room I go in, I'm like, all right, stop, take a breath, look around, let the vision go out. All right, wiggle my toes. All right, there I am. And then I'll move. But it took me 30, God, I mean, we're a military family. And then after that, we traveled. My father was in radio, and then he also worked for like NASCAR and all these. So we were in, 10, 15 different schools just in elementary school, I mean, just constantly moving. And so every couple months you get a new lesson, and, like, okay, this last school I went in and I tried to be cool and I got beat up. And so like this next one, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then the next one, I'm like, I'm going to try to be the funny guy. And then you go in and you're like, that didn't work, and you just kind of learn. Like, I'm really grateful for that, for this always getting a new opportunity to like kind of, okay, redo. And then, yeah. I mean, you've traveled a lot, right? Have you traveled a lot?
No, I wouldn't say a lot, but I did travel a few trips. I'm one of those people who were late to travel because I moved out at a very young age. I had to take care of myself. I had, to work my life up. When I
Yeah.
had my first trip, it was like Disneyland for me. Yay,
Oh yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
But the thing you said about moving schools, this I could not resonate with, but what I can resonate with is the instability. The
Oh yeah.
thing where, because I moved a lot of houses. So for me, it was just, instead of 15 schools, 15 houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know what that creates, or what that could teach you along the way, and how it could affect our confidence at some point. Um, so how was that for you? I'm pretty sure I could imagine that it wasn't easy for a kid to move schools, or to always be on the run, to make new friends, to show up and exist.
For my constitution, great.
Okay.
Is that I was my desire to self actualize, and when you're doing that in my creative mind, was always trying new things, and so it was good. I had no impulse control. I don't think I was the coolest kid. I was maybe a little too in my I was a little too intellectual at this time. I was like very just reading and just always breaking things down, and
That's
didn't
cool.
vote.
Where I come from, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's fun because in America it's very regional. So like when you're in, Alabama, it might not be cool, but then we moved to Oklahoma and it was cooler there, and then you move over to North Carolina and it's different. I liked it. The other thing that I think that it instills in you is the fact that you bring yourself, and that's everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And there's an old rule, it's like when you look at people that go into like yoga schools or even join a team, they give their identity away to it. They become a company man or company person, right? But, the rule is you bring yourself to enlightenment. It's you that goes to, right? So when I would walk into these places, you kind of learn who you are. It's like the reason why that didn't work is because I was trying something. But then later when you become it, then you can like be it. And that's what it taught. That's probably why I like skill building so much, is because you don't have to pack skill. You just leave and it's with you all the time. I put out an album a long time ago called Phantom Limbs, and it was about that. It was just about, I felt like I had all these little things around me, just kind of like phantom limbs around my body that were always just kind of helping me out. Like I didn't need all these different trinkets and stuff. It was just these little protectors all around me all the time. So I think that helped, but some people it's not good for. Like some people, their constitution, they need structure, but I learned that I was structured. Like, you have a book, you can bring it anywhere. It's like, I have a journal, I can bring it anywhere. It's like, that's why I like guitar more than piano, because a guitar travels well, and a piano doesn't. The only thing better is your voice or a harmonica. And, it goes everywhere. And so what it taught was how to be simple, how to always show up and learn it. Also, I'm really into situational awareness and mindfulness work. And it's a good practice. Like I say this all the time, after your third elementary school, you need one recess to know who everyone is. You just walk right out onto the playground and you look and you know who's the funny person, who's the cool person, who's the hot person, who everything. Like, boom, done. And that's all you need. And it takes a couple times getting beat up, but once you get pushed around, you know who everyone is. And then you can walk in and you can know how to just sort of, you learn what courtesy is. Like, be nice. How to introduce yourself. Like a lot of people will be like, man, you just like open up. Yeah, because you need allies. When you walk into a place and you don't have allies, you need to make allies. So, eat their food, say hi to them, say thank you, please, like don't put your feet on the furniture, and stuff like that. they cook, you do the dishes. You know, it's like, it's just little things like that. So it taught me a lot. I liked it. Yeah.
I love that. And while you were talking, it's not something new, but it reminds me of how much this world needs more men practicing what you're just saying. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's so overwhelming in a good way. Like my heart is literally dancing and jumping out of joy to see that there's a man out there practicing mindfulness, practicing the present, being here and now, kindness, courtesy, taking everything that has happened to him and making something good out of it, and by paying it forward. Like Total BS Wellness is about that. It's about spreading all of your learnings around, while other men would take that and express it differently, like in anger or aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And even for you as a martial artist, just before we hit the record button, you told me how some people would choose to be dangerous, to be harmful with that skill, while you take it and shape it into something very kind.
So
I like that.
Yes.
Tell me more about this. First of all, tell me, how did you become that? How did you? Because I know that at a very young age, you held responsibility, and you were always, as you told me, the caregiver. So how did you move from that to this?
Okay. So my father was a special forces guy and then moved into radio and stuff, very capable. And then just one day he gets Parkinson's disease and, you know, kind of loses everything. And over that time, we were just kind of put out into a very intense world of freedom. We'll just call it freedom. And inside that freedom, I was lucky enough to be a boy among some pretty volatile men, right? And you learn very similar to how what I would study in like human development, like, you know, physiology, like in a cave, like a woman was much smaller. So they're better at reading body language because you're not going to defend yourself with upper body strength like men would do. And I was a boy, so I became better at reading body language. You also, a lot of my mentors were women, so they would always talk to me. I would get to see what macho dudes did, and then I would get to talk to a lot of these older women, and then they would, because I had really long hair, and they would teach me how to like trim my split ends and, you know, do stuff like that. You know, it's like, and so they taught me cool stuff. And I don't know, over time, you just learn that. I learned how to fight at a really young age as well. And then I think a lot of people that are getting into like the fighting world, they're new at it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not new at it. Like, this is something that's very normal to me. It's not like I don't feel tough if I punch you. I just don't. I feel like I did something wrong. And because if it goes to there, so many bad decisions have been made. Like, and so therefore in that world, I realized like the highest level of I was telling you, hurt and harm, right? It's yin and yang. And if we look at martial arts as a healing art, the low level, like if I handed you a scalpel and said, operate on your friend right now, you're gonna kill them, right? And that's martial arts. If I hand you these tools and we go, at first you're just this brutal mess, and then over time you become the healer, right? So then after years of practice and being in certain situations, now that scalpel can save a life, right? And that's what martial practice was. It's in most medicine. I mean, the number one killer in America, I still might be, but I know a few years ago was prescription painkillers. Medicine is poison, straight up. And what turns poison into medicine is your knowledge, your experience, your dosage, and the intention. That's what turns medicine into poison and poison into medicine, right? And so if we understand this, then we can start actually moving through the idea of when I feel that this moment of like where I want to use some sort of extreme intervention into the world, whether it's a punch or whether it's shooting off an air horn or just, slapping your drink out of your hand. The idea is it's telling me something. It's telling me that we do need an intervention, but what is the wake of that intervention? Do I want to cultivate like more health, or do I want to just scorch the earth? Right. And so, you know, this is really important. And also as a musician, and music is always emoting and always like speaking your feelings. And I think just keeping that vessel open, it made me realize like whenever I wanted to punch you, I just really also wanted to, you know, it's because something else was going on. And I love anything that can express emotion. Like that's what music is the, so music took pain and suffering and turned it into the most beautiful thing ever created, right? Slavery became blues, which became rock and roll, which, you know what I mean? And it's like, and powerful transformations happen through art, right? And then martial arts took war and turned it into health. So it's like, I've always like sought these things out because I think it's the highest form of human existence. And so, yeah, I was like, well, I'm just really glad I got to play with these. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's, as you just said, bridging the gap between harm and health.
You know, I was working with this really amazing hostage negotiator, and we were talking about communication skills.
Interesting. He should come to my
Oh yeah. Through this work that I get to do, I get to sit through a lot of things. I work with professionals, and we were doing these things. And I actually have a course called Situational Mindfulness on my site. And I took it out of the situational awareness, which was anytime men think situational awareness, they think like, I'm looking out for snipers and I'm tactical and I'm tough. But really it's like, hey man, you're not in the military. Stop. Like, you're not allowed to do what they're allowed to do. Like, we need to just know that, like,
situational mindfulness.
Situational mindfulness is the idea of being aware of what you're carrying into the room. Like, if I walk into a room thinking I'm this powerful, you know, alpha male, then I might actually make it worse, right? If like if you were having a conflict and then someone comes in, for example, I have a lot of homeless people on my street. And there were a lot of the property owners were trying to get them off the street. They were like, hey, you know, you got to clear out. And then I'm friends with them. I have employed them and I talk to them and I've given them body work and, you know, I mean, and so then they were getting a little out of hand and I walked in, I was like, hey guys, I'm having to do a lot of recording right now. Could you guys like, and you guys are going down, doing a lot of dangerous things. And, you know, I don't want my building hurt or, you know, or you guys have to deal with the law enforcement if they get called. So will you guys just move down the road? And they get no problem. In one night, 50 tents gone off my street. And the property managers were like, how did you do that? You know, we've been telling them to leave. And I'm like, I didn't tell them I'm their boss. I'm not their boss. I'm their friend. And I care about their well-being. And so the idea is like, mindfulness is sort of understanding like, oh, wait, I'm feeling challenged right now. I'm puffing up. The mindfulness would be like, but really that's just my story. That's my opinion. And just calm back down, feel your feet, return to breath, and then say, am I going to try to impose my will or create an ally, right? Because the Western mind of the gangster, you know, it's like, I'm tougher than you, so therefore I'm over you, but you're only over them until your next moment of weakness. And then they're going to take you down and they're going to, you know, that just looks exhausting. It just looks, you know, it's like no one can relax in that. That's business, right? No, don't do that. Like again, the garden, you know, we need everything. So I don't know, just kind of doing it that way. And that's situational mindfulness, is knowing that if I'm walking with an air of, you know, I'm victim or I'm macho or everyone's out to get me, I'm going to get that. But if I actually open up and know that I'm strong and I'm aware, then I'm no longer as easy of a target for a potential predator or a potential opportunist, or, you know, my relationship with you is going to be different because I'm not trying to establish some sort of status around you. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not sniffing around you trying to figure out where I stand. It's like, I know who I am. You know, it's like, just be yourself and there's your filter. You either like me or you don't. Have fun. Like, you know, and it's kind of interesting to watch how we keep trying to control outcomes. And it's like, you're going to get tired. Like, the energy is a wave, and watch surfers. They don't try to control the wave. They just don't.
Good reminder. Thank you. For such
a thanks.
Reminder.
And that's mindfulness. Yeah, and situational awareness is oftentimes used. Police officers use it, military, but because they're walking into, again, cause and effect, the before and the after. They're going into a war zone. So, like, of course, you're going to be looking out for something totally different than you and I going, just going to the store. I'm not looking out for, I'm not, I'm just not looking out for people, I'm not doing that. I'm looking out for, I'm just trying to find the sweet deal on like dried mangoes. You know what I mean? That's what my situation, the sales over there. I mean, that's really all I'm doing. Oh, there's a parking spot. I mean, it's like just that alone is, we're driving, we're doing little things. And how do we take the pressure off? And and that interrogator or that hostage negotiator had a beautiful thing that he would told me. He was like, when he's working with a guy taking hostages, his empathy isn't towards, I'm going to get these hostages and I'm going to take this guy down. He said his only goal is knowing that this guy wouldn't be taking any hostages right now if this guy wasn't going through a crisis. So my only job is to get you out of your crisis and let you know that there's help and let you know that there's other options. That's it.
Wow.
You're not there to punish them.
Yeah.
You're not that because punishing them makes them push back. It's resistance. You need that for a fight, but and that's gone.
That nothing. Reminds me, where did I read that? So I have a fish memory in case you haven't noticed, but I read somewhere that there's a school somewhere in Europe where instead of punishing the kids for doing something wrong, they do meditations with the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, they're teaching the kids how to think things through, but in the right way, to be present and to breathe and to meditate. And they're asking their parents to do the same at home.
Because we're always transmitting, right? In that course that I made, the mindfulness course, I have what's called the Matt Lucas Quick Guide. And there's just all these like little rules that I've been using in my head, like since I was a child.
Could you share?
And one of them is treat the world like a horse or a small dog. Like if I'm every room that I go into, every person that I walk up to, if I'm imagining you're like a horse or a small animal, if I go up to you really fast and I surprise you or anything like that, then you're going to always mirror that with me. Right. But if I'm like, hey, how's it going? And, there's a difference between, hey, with my hand up versus hand this way, these are totally different. And so if I can walk up to you gently and just inquire and, and wait and be patient and give you space, you're no longer like, cause now you're walled off. And so if we can understand that, and these are very simple. We don't have to think about it, because I'll say these things and people will be like, actually, that's true, because the neurological, shut up. I don't care about neurological. I don't care, because now I'm thinking about brain science as opposed to knowing if you walk up to a horse like an asshole, it's going to be an asshole. Like that's all that happens.
Matt, I have a short story for you. I fractured my elbow last September and I was not an ass to the horse, but I do believe that he got scared one way or another, but I'm a very nice person.
I'm not, and I'm not calling you out. So this is the thing. So yeah, but that's the whole thing. We have to understand, like when we're on these, we have to always, a perfect rider would be able to, can feel and all. And this is what we're trying to do is, and when you're there now, like you technically can't control the horse.
True.
You're just surfing the hurt, you're with the energies of the horse. So if we're walking through an environment and we can't control if, something jumps out at it, or, even a moving shadow can freak them out, right? They're fight or flight animals. And if we know this, and I don't, because I'm terrified of horses, because I don't know why. But that's really important, is to just know that those are the potentials.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you know, sometimes you mess up, but as long as you do your work, you know, to make sure that you have the best relationship with that animal, then at least you're safer. At least you were able to get on it, you know, and not walk right up to it like a crazy person.
That's
yeah.
True. So that's one.
Yeah,
that's one rule.
Yeah.
What's the second one? If you want.
Well, there's many of them. So like one of them is always know where home is. And that means always know your baseline. So like right now if you're at home, you know where your home is. But like, for example, you know, you walk out on a stage, home is your baseline. Home is take a breath and feel, and then find your home. Like, what is your home, right? I'm centered, I'm safe, and I'm aware, right? And I'm not looking out around me because I know my space. So as a fighter, home is your hands are up, your feet are on, you know, it's like, if I'm playing guitar, home is I have my guitar on me, it's in tune, right? And I never go so far out from home that I can't get back. So if I do like a weird thing where I tune it up and back down, I don't go way out and close my eyes and free. I never go so far as I can't get back. And the better I get at my skill, the further out from home I can go. Like, you know, the more you know about the city you live in, the further away you can go from home without a map. There's that one. There's no truth according to you. You're according to the truth. So it's always seeking the truth. That's important. There's a bunch of them. But yeah, there's just a few little rules that they always pop up. I have a guy that's writing them down for me because I just recorded them for people. But they're, you know, excitement makes you careless. That's a good one. You know, when we get excited, next thing you know, that's when you bump your head. You know what I mean? When you're calm, you're fine.
I'm regretting sharing that story with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, because like so much of marketing has to do with us. We have to get you, you know, it's like the rule is that excitement makes you careless, emotions make you stupid, right? And they don't really make you stupid, but the idea is we don't want to make decisions from those places. We just want to say, oh, that makes me happy. Now I'm excited. Take a breath. Now I can make a decision, right? And hopefully we can have some sort of gap, right? And then the better we get at it, the closer that gap is. So like some people get excited and then are calm within a fraction of a second. But, you know, a child, you know, when I was a kid, it would take sometimes 2 days for me to calm down, you know, and, you know, so that's a skill just as much, you know, how we were talking about practice. Yeah. If you can't practice meditation, practice literally watching the news and then turning it off and calming down. That is just, I think, more valuable skill than doing push-ups right now, because how is that going to affect our conversations later, right? You know, how many times have people treated people poorly just because they thought differently? You know, it's like,
wow, yes.
That's, you know, and I meet you, we think differently. And the next thing you know, that bleeds off into the next 5 people I talk to. And now I won't shut up about it. And that ripples out into their family. And it's kind of like, I'm editing a thing right now talking about how much we could learn. It says the first line is you could learn a lot from your genitals. And it means how many times have people in bars, like if a man is talking to a man and they disagree, they might be like, that guy's a jerk. But if a man goes talk to a woman that they want to sleep with, they'll say the dumbest things to each other, but they'll put up with anything just to at least,
oh, God.
You know what I mean? And I was like, so in that point, actually, your genitals are better people than you are, because they're at least willing to like listen and forget, even though I might have an agenda, but the idea is like, I'm willing to bypass. Yeah. I'm willing to see your point of view. You know what I mean? It's like, because I'm in, let's do this. I mean, how much stupid stuff have we done just because we want to, you know, like
go there. Let's not go there. Not on the show.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. And I was just cracking up because so then the whole moral of it is like, I wish your desire for a peaceful world was as potent as your desire to hook up tonight. Right. Wow. Because if it was, then we would have a much better world, because like there's the joke, like, I don't really care about your cat, but like, I'm totally willing to just sit around and listen to your, you know, stupid stories about your, you know, because you're cute. And yeah. And, you know, I think that's very important. I think we should be mindful of that. Like, what are the scenarios that I'm willing to listen to opposing views? Is it because I want a job? Is it because I think you're better than me and I want your money, or I want to go out on your boat this weekend? Is it because I want to have sex with you? Right? And then how can we take that metaphor and say, life is art. So are there other ways that I can see your point of view? Right? You're taking hostages. Do I see you as you're doing something wrong, or do I see you as a person in crisis that is affecting others now?
Such an important distinction. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that just comes with practice. Talk to people.
It's practice, and it's also people being aware of this is not how things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like you raise awareness, or you speak about bridging the gap between harm and health, while I try to make people realize that there's a gap between being aware of something and actually taking action, which is practice. If nothing, then nothing changes, and this awareness is really not beneficial to anyone.
Yeah.
But yes, I do believe that if people who are still, let's say, suffering from lack of action, let's put it that way, and they only listen to this episode and practice, let's say, 10% of what you just shared, the world would be just a more peaceful place to be.
If we just learned how to, I'm doing these two kind of free courses. One is on nonviolent communication, and the other one, and the other one is on practice, right? And in the nonviolent communication, it's like, what are the tools at the highest level people use? And one of the biggest tools that a person would use, and whether it's an interrogation or a hardcore mediation, one of my buddies, he's a missing persons guy, and his job is to go into places that are selling children and deal with them. And I also did some mediations with gangs and stuff. And these are people that if they even feel that you're taking someone's side or judging them,
you're done.
Someone's going to maybe die, right? And so the idea is, how do you just stay so open and non-judgmental and only focus on what every person in the room can contribute to the next step? There's no pointing fingers. And some of the
hard. That's really hard for someone to reach that level of power and strength.
Well, right. And I remind everyone, like, you know, I remember in all of my writings, one of the most thing in high school, I just learned that most of our problems on this planet are created by very intelligent people that think they know what's right. And so this is why I don't really care about experts until they walk into nature and they put it into chaos, the unknown, take it out of the quantifiable and learn to feel, right? And because how many people are just, you know, it's like, watch the Oppenheimer interviews where he had this rad job as a physicist to make this awesome nuclear bomb. And he's like, cool, I'm finally going to pay off my student loans, right? And then next thing you know, he's like, oh. And he realized, oh my God, I used a lot of intelligence and a very little amount of wisdom, right? And wisdom is cause and effect. And that's super important. And so, like, one of the things that these interrogators and these heavy mediators, where life or death is on the line, they always use time. Time is your best thing. Like if you and I were having an argument, I could be like, you know what? I'm getting angry. I'm running out of ideas. I'm going to go get some water. Do you need anything? Right. And just by doing that, just by saying, look, I know that we're having a conflict, but it doesn't mean I don't want you hydrated, because I know your brain is fat in water. If you want to use intelligence, your brain is fat in water. And if it's dehydrated, you're making bad decisions. So we need to make a good decision together. So I'm getting water. I'm going to give you water. We're going to be hydrated. You want an almond? You know, just these little things of understanding, like, what is the key to decision making? What is the key to emotional intelligence? Because decision making has to, like, high level special forces guys and high level military, they're not practicing shooting anymore. Like, they're practicing decision making. Like, it's always about decision making. And a weapon in itself in samurai culture was a decision. It wasn't a tool to kill. It was a tool to make a very clear, concise decision. And the problem with technology is we've taken away all of your barriers to entry to the decision that you're making, right? Now you can make a decision that can affect millions of people with the click of a button. A long time ago, you actually had to practice to earn the right to have an impact with your decisions, right? But now we all have a platform. That's why the litigious world showed up. They made the gun, and then they put all these blankets over, like, sign this piece of paper to where I don't have any responsibility around the decision you're making, right? I wipe my hands free. You can't do a push-up. Here's a gun. You can kill it. You can, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's no judgment on that, but the idea is, what is the barrier to entry and how much practice have we put forward? You know, it's, or the health and harm. How many people want to get rock hard abs and awesome, you know, they won't stop doing push-ups, and then they blow their shoulder out, and then they blow their knee out, and now they're gaining weight. Now they're depressed. Yeah. But they're doing, you know, and so how do we retake that breath, take time to nurture the tree? You know, what does it take? If you were a tree, what are the things that are going to make you the strongest tree possible, right? And like, I really think it's not about you setting goals to get rock hard abs and big biceps. It's about understanding what makes a healthy, happy human being. And sometimes, yeah, we want, you know, but the abs show up, you know, just take care of yourself. That's a byproduct. You know, you'll be healthy. You'll look great. You know, it's like, just take care of yourself. You're going to look amazing. You know what I mean? It's like, don't worry about it, you know? And it's kind of funny to see what we're putting priorities around, but none of my business. It's your life.
That was a nice, I felt the last thing you just said about the abs and the working out, a message for me directly. Like, I was like, okay, all right. Because just
take care of yourself.
You know what? I am taking care of myself, but just today I was telling my friend, you know what? I want abs by the end of the year. I want abs. And now you're mentioning this, and I was like, okay, maybe not.
Just take, I always say they're there. Yeah. They're right there. But the idea is, what is it that makes you, I was just working with a guy, and we're going to train him for this endurance motorcycle race. And he's big guy, big, you know, pretty big. And he was not wanting to train with me because he thought, you know, I was going to try to turn him into like this superhero looking guy. And I was like, I'm just going to get you functioning. I want your body to be smart and aware. And then once you're aware, then you're going to enjoy performance, right? Once you know what your knees do and how your knees connect with your elbows and your hips connect with your shoulders and everything moves right. Now you're going to be out there moving because you have a framework to exist. Yeah. And then you just start getting stronger, and then you start changing shape. But if you just stand there and you just pump out rep after rep after rep, I mean, we can do this, and that's great for high level performers. But a lot of those high level performers, the only reason why they can talk to high level athletes, and how many of them have had their knees replaced? Yes. You know, and so what that means is, technically the way they're training, if it would before technology, they would be cripples now. And so that's actually, technology is allowed for the freedom of a little bit of irresponsibility, right? But if we look at martial artists, you know, a long time ago, a lot of these health practices that people don't take time for now, the reason why you don't take time for them is because you can go to the doctor and get your knee replaced. But I take time for them because I personally don't want to get my knee replaced. I would rather be, you know, I mean, you know, the last job that I did on Into the Badlands, you know, I was 42, you know, and there's multiple generations of like the, you know, Jackie Chan team and all these, you know, and it's like, and we're going, and, you know, to be in your 40s doing that, you have to be really, really, really on your health.
Yes, true.
And it's not about will anymore. It's about listening. You know, I'm not telling nature what to do with my body. I'm going to work and we're going to build a relationship together. I'm not fighting against nature. That is, you ain't never going to win. And the rule with nature is never hurry, accomplish everything. Right? That's the rule with nature. Like,
no down to speed up.
Yeah. Well, think of it. You know, have you ever grown a garden? Have you ever done that? No?
No.
Okay.
Because every time I get a plant to my house, it dies.
Mm-hmm.
I sing for the plant. I talk with the plant. I water the plant. I put it under the sunshine. What else do you want from me?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I've had some great gardener friends help me out with my garden. And the funny part is it's so slow. And you're like, oh, I just want. And then once it starts growing, you can't keep up. So, you know, you don't want to rush nature, because once you get nature moving, then you're like, oh my God, I can't keep up with this. Yeah. So don't hurry. Like, because nature works, again, back to the atomic bomb, nature works in compounding interest, right? So careful with your abs. One day you might just have abs everywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, oops.
Yeah. Next thing you know, just it's raining abs in your life. You can't stop the abs. So, you know, you want to be able to like build your, you know, intelligence and your wisdom and, you know, your consciousness with all of the work that you're doing.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Matt, thank you so much. First of all, for speaking a language that I use, or that I speak, let's put it that way. And thank you for all the reminders. And most important one for me was, don't point out fingers, be mindful, bridging the gap between the harm and the health through kindness. Really, it's very simple. Just be kind and be human. Out of everything you just said, if you want them to take away one thing, just one, what would that be?
I would tell them to write more, learn how you think, and then ask yourself, if I were you, you know, that's an important one, especially in mediations. Like, I see why you're mad, but, you know, how do you think I feel? You know, and like always ask yourself, you know, like put yourself in other people's shoes. Like I've had people literally want to kill me and hate me. And I'm like, I get it. I could totally see how you could hate me. And just by saying that, it makes people go, you know, next thing you know, you're goofing off. Like, be okay.
Okay.
Like we're all allowed to have our story. You know what I mean? And that's
we tend to forget. That's so true.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a weirdo artist, and I would have killed to have an uptight conservative person running my business. I would have killed for that. And all the conservative people that I knew would have killed to have been able to play guitar. And you know what I mean? And I say, you go to New York, not because of the awesome bank, right? You go there because of the art and the culture, but the banks are what support us. So we, you know, it's everything is an ecosystem, and try to see the ecosystem that is your body. Try to see the ecosystem that is your relationship. Try to see the ecosystem that is your home. Try to see the ecosystem that is your job. Try to see the ecosystem that is your culture, and know that it needs everything, or every culture dies without diversity. Straight up. Yeah.
Amen.
You want to kill art? Insulate it. You want to kill your genetics? Insulate them. Yeah. Nothing exists in an echo chamber. And that's kind of what I wish people could see.
Me too.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. I'm like, stop.
Wow.
Yeah. But thanks for having me. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.